Okay, let's begin. Welcome to our 13th Townhall on the 16th of July, 2018. Today we're coming at you from the Global Blockchain Conference in Johannesburg, South Africa, spread around the world as always, though, with all of our contributors. So without any further ado, let's dive right into it. We've got a lot to get through. The first thing that we wanted to sort of detail is some key takeaways from our security summit in Basel that we had last week. And I believe that Carl is going to be giving the updates on this. If Carl is not around, perhaps Nabil can tell us what happened in Switzerland.
I can jump in. Let's just wait and see if Carl can jump on. It might be a technical glitch and we can come back to this.
Cool, no problem. We'll move on to the slide in a moment. So we'll start with non-tech updates in that case, as per usual. We'll kick it off with some really awesome new contributors that we've got in the last 2 weeks, and this is going to be given by Steph.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, awesome. Okay, hi everyone. So in the last 2 weeks, we've been welcoming 4 people, and my bad for not having found a good photo of Dustin. He's starting today, so I pinged him, but because he's based in another time zone, he didn't have time to send it to me. And aside from Dustin, we have Akshay that joined us last week as the head of Status Studio, Michael as a social media manager, and Jonathan is joining us today, specifically my team as the director of People Ops and Talent combined. We still have 22 open roles, and we'd love to close the design agency and the incubate roles as soon as possible. So if anyone who's tuned into this town hall has anybody in mind that would be a great addition to those 2 teams specifically, please let us know. And also remember that with that, you can get up a bonus of 5,000 S&T. That's next slide, Anne. Thank you. Okay, so in the last couple of weeks, we had discussion around the OKRs for this quarter. We scored them, we finalized them, and we realized that we still have several basics to get better at, namely onboarding, which is still a very big focus area for us. We want to improve it not only on a technical level, but by making available integrated learning opportunities at the appropriate level for everyone who joins the organization. So there's going to be a lot of work in that sense. And Talent started experimenting with, as you just mentioned, the Basel meetup, which we didn't hear about yet, but will come later. There was a set of principles that came out of that together up that we are going to try to use to inform everything that we do. And Talent had a head start at that, and now they're already using ways to score and scan for those values while very early in the recruitment process, so during interviews, during tests and integration tasks. We also want to become even more transparent about what we do, so we're going to make an effort to use Discuss more regularly to brainstorm on projects and ideas that are related to people operations. And we would love everyone's interest and contributions also there. Another thing that we're going to be doing is, like, Kerry and I are thinking to split in the teams so that everyone will have one person dedicated to them as People Ops support. If anyone thinks that's not a good idea, let us know. Otherwise, we're going to proceed and try to split the teams together and announce the next steps during this week. We've been working on a blog post with marketing about the excitements and the challenges and the joys of doing people operations in our context, and also on a non-directly technical talk that we are planning for this Friday afternoon, again with Kerry. And Yasin did one last week as an introduction to crypto transactions. It was very successful. People loved it. We're still discussing what's going to happen next, whether we're going to be publishing that recording or prepare a series of smaller ones. So stay tuned on our channel. And as you probably know or have received even by now, we shipped every core contributor a Ledger Nano a couple of weeks ago as a sign of recognition for the efforts that everyone put recently and the hard work. If you haven't received it yet, please let us know so that we should be able still to find out where it is at in case there were customs problems. For now, that's everything. We're going to have a meetup next week also in Switzerland. We're finally going to be all together under the same roof and work a bit more on consolidating what it is we want to do next, role splitting. So keep it up. We'll let you know. That
awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, people are getting together in person. I can't imagine anything more fun. So before we move on to some of the OKRs, is Carl on the line yet?
Yes, I am, if you can hear me.
Perfect. There we go. So an update on what happened in Basel, please.
Yeah, great. So hello, everyone. So the week before last, we had this small meetup in Basel in Switzerland. So it's like 12 or 13 of us, and we spent this time primarily discussing our approach to security, different frameworks we can use, and this also led into some conversations around product decisions. So I'm going to focus on the first two items on the slide. So the first of which was a wall of shame document. And so this was a list of areas we need to improve upon, and also prior decisions that we've made that core contributors have concerns with. And then we went on to trying to identify like why these items were concerning. So I'll give a few specific examples. So one would be, we have no perfect forward secrecy implemented, yet status is predicated on creating secure communication systems. And so this is an example of something that upon fixing will bring us closer to that goal. Another would be that we currently depend on Infura, yet the whole idea of status is to be as decentralized as possible. And so this is a breach of our beliefs. A third would be that we rely upon fiat and a single legal entity in order to operate, yet organizationally, a single point of failure or a single controlling entity is exactly what we're trying to avoid. And so I realized that we're moving in the right direction, that we've made certain trade-offs in order to get beta out the door, but there's still about 50 of these items on this list that we came up with of varying degrees of difficulty. And I would encourage everyone to take a look at them, perhaps add in more if we're missing things. Then we can start to propose solutions and then begin to prioritize and focus on reducing this list. And, it's going to take time. Like some of these points are research endeavors and are unsolved across the entire space. That's also why this technology is fun and exciting. And it's the very reason why we exist as an organization. And so after we created this list, we tried to identify all the reasons why these items concerned us. And we then clustered all these reasons into these sort of broad groups or categories. And out of it came these sort of guiding principles for the work that we do. Now, these are already posted and discussed, but I think it's worth highlighting them here. So I'm just going to pull them up and then read them out. One thing to keep in mind is that they're written using we, but they're very much a work in progress. They overlap with some of the existing work. And if you have comments or thoughts or things we've missed, like please add them in. By no means finalized. So the first of which was liberty. Like we believe in the right of individuals to have autonomy and responsibility over his or her life. We aim to maximize social, political, and economic freedoms. The status is an agnostic platform. Censorship resistance. We aim to avoid the suppression of information. No content is under surveillance. One of the design goals of Ethereum is to be censorship resistant, and we should provide the same guarantees across status. Security. We don't compromise on security when building features. We use state-of-the-art research and use security methods to make strong security guarantees. Privacy. Privacy is the power to selectively reveal oneself to the world. This means you need to protect privacy in communications and transactions, as well as the right to total anonymity. Transparency. We strive for complete openness and symmetry of information and have no border between our core contributors and our community. We'll be frank about our faults, especially when making short-term trade-offs in service of our long-term goals. Free culture. The software we create is a public good. It will be made available via a free and open source license for anyone to share, modify, and benefit from. Decentralization. We will minimize centralization across both the software and the organization. Inclusivity. We believe in far and widespread access to our software with an emphasis on ease of use. This also extends to social inclusivity, inviting participation in the organization, and investing in educational efforts. And lastly, we had continuance. We aim to create software that will continue to exist and improve without the stewardship of a single entity or any current team members. And so No, that's it. There's a bunch of other things at Events Basel, and if you visit that channel in Slack, you'll be able to see some of the other work that was undertaken. And if you visited the Discuss thread, you'll be able to see specific examples of trade-offs or considerations for each principle. And so I think some sort of questions to end on would be, like, what does it actually mean to be a secure messenger? What constitutes success for each principle, both in terms of the software and the organization? And then lastly, like, I believe very deeply in each of these principles, and hopefully everyone listening will too. But if you don't, I think it's worth asking why. Like, maybe we can help to provide educational information and resources. And so, yeah, that's it for me. Like, thank you, as always, for the amazing work that's happening. And lastly, on a less serious note, I've been really amazed by the community contributions of the contest the past couple of weeks, which is really exciting to see.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carl. There's a lot of stuff to go through in there, a lot of things to be thought about, and a lot of discussions to be had. So I really encourage everybody to take part actively. You know, the whole point of being a part of a decentralized community of people is that we each get to define the direction that we take as an organization by our active contributions and participation. And that goes for both core contributors and anybody in the community. So please feel free to jump in there and discuss either principles that you would like to see included or excluded, or what those success metrics would look like that Carl mentioned, as well as, you know, some definitions for secure messaging. It also brings me back to just highlight briefly again this fact that we have 22 open roles, particularly within the design agency and incubates, which are, again, both premised on making sure that we can make this technology inclusive and accessible to as many people as we possibly can, which is a core part of the principles that Carl outlined. And we really are keen to try and find the best people in the world to push forward those two parts of the puzzle in particular. We've got some amazing people that have come on board. You'll hear from Obi in a moment. Ned is doing an amazing job already in terms of trying to come up with a design philosophy. And the projects that are coming out of incubates are really fantastic to see. Crypto Strikers has been an amazing success. I dread speaking to Julia and Eric, Mammy, and our other French contributors in status after this weekend. I also dread seeing how many French crypto strikers they've gathered over the course of the last month that it's been active in status. And I'm really looking forward to the next few projects that are due to be announced very soon. So with that, we're going to move into our OKRs. And I believe this is Nabil.
Cool. Rachel, do you want to take this? I'm happy to take it as well.
I don't mind. You can go for it.
Cool. So moving on from the past fortnight, where we've basically tried to create this open OKR voting process, it's taken us a little bit longer to get things ready, and we've had a couple of contributions so far. Right now, where we are as of this morning is we have the 12 proposals there. If you head to vote.status.im inside of Status or any Web3 browser, you can then see, and then using the S&T in your account, you can vote on specific ideas. So there's 12 ideas there. They're proposed. Please give your input in the next, say, 48 hours, and then we'll go ahead and basically start working on those things. So check it out. There's a lot that we've learned going through this process, and hopefully Q4 will be much smoother. So thanks for everyone for getting involved.
Yeah, thanks, Nabil. I do strongly encourage people to navigate that through status and just see how awesome it is. Huge kudos to Barry in particular for getting that up and running. Into marketing, and we'll hear from Kim on this one.
Andy, so this is Johnny. I'm actually going to kick it off.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Cool. So before we get into some of the metrics on what we've been doing, I'm just going to go through some of the ongoing projects. We're still hosting these tech talks. So if you are interested in hosting one, please contact Carrie or myself and we can help arrange it. And then there's also some content campaigns going on. So around each release, we're looking to highlight one of the insights around that specific release, just to, educate people around the key update in that release. We're also conducting, or we're in production on a campaign around the Whisper protocol right now, along with UX design and then also people ops. Once again, just really trying to highlight the amazing work that's being done by the team. Status projects, there's some interesting things going on as well. So 3.1 has come out, and then to accompany that, we're working on some tutorials and some quick light touch videos with Yuri and the team, which we're going to call bursts, which is exciting. And then also working with the NIM team once again to really like highlight the work that they're doing as well, and really just announce, you know, to everyone what we're really doing with NIM and Nimbus, because it's really exciting. And there's also there's a lot of events coming up. DAppCon in Berlin, and then the Global events will be at India in August, and then we'll also be in Berlin. We're working with Maria and the team with the Berlin team to integrate status as much as we can at the actual event. So some really exciting things happening there. TAD Hack will be in October as well, which we'll be at. And then, you know, really exciting, we can announce now that the Status Hackathon will be the weekend before DevCon, so October 26th in Prague, which is really, really exciting. You know, there's going to be a lot of, you know, brilliant people in Prague at the time, and really just trying to encourage the community to come together and to build some really, really awesome things. And there's more details coming out regarding the hackathon with the theme and what we're going for this week. So stay tuned. It's really exciting. And then once again, since we'll be in Prague the weekend before for our hackathon, we'll obviously be at DevCon as well. So really exciting stuff all around, and I'll kick it over to Kim.
Thanks, Johnny. So can you jump back, Andy, real quick to the previous slide? Yeah, just running through campaign and community really quickly. One of the things to call out is we did launch our Spanish channels last week. So yay, Eduardo. There's a link there if you want to read the blog post about it. We now have dedicated Spanish Facebook and Twitter channels, as well as obviously the in-app public chat. So that was a really big win for that community. So congratulations, Eduardo. Okay, you can go ahead now, Andy, thanks. The meme competition, Hutch has been working round the clock, driving this competition, doing a great job. So thanks to everyone who's helped with this brave new memes, especially the status community as a whole, really showing up in full force. We've had some amazing entries and some great community buzz around this. Over 500 mentions and over 200 meme submissions, which we were really thrilled to see. Extremely creative ones. There's some examples there. One of our Ethereum artists did a series taking our logo and basically hacking our logo. And so there's a lot of different varieties of that have been really fun to see. Also a big thanks to Flexdap for building out our meme site, which you can see over on the right, and there's a link there. You can check out the meme leaderboard. And then a special thanks, of course, to Maria MP, our meme powerhouse, for curating and judging all the submissions. And just a reminder, there's 1 day left for submissions. I believe it ends tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So let's see, our content and channel, this covers Facebook and Twitter. Really great, strong numbers. Our total engagement grew by 39% since the last fortnight. This is awesome and primarily driven by Brave New Memes and all the mentions around that. And it's also, I think, worth calling out, this 39% increase is on top of the last fortnight reporting period, which was where we had announced beta. So this is really strong on top of numbers that were already strong from the last reporting period. Next slide. So yeah. Yeah, that's the right one. So mentions are up primarily from Brave New Memes, and impressions are being driven primarily from the massive increase in articles and awareness around our Amisco announcement, which was really tremendous and was really well received by the community. We were thrilled. So overall, we're up on every metric, which is pretty amazing. And so I think it's going to be a real challenge in 2 weeks when we have to go back and report on this again to see where we are, because it's going to be very hard to improve on these numbers, but we're definitely moving in the right direction. Next slide. These are our top tweets from the last 2 weeks. These are sorted by clicks, but you can see other metrics there as well, like reach, response, total responses, and retweets. Obviously, the Musico announcement was our strongest tweet by far, followed by some of just sort of the beta reminder tweets. Next slide. Our top 2 blog posts over the last 2 weeks, obviously, Musico really was our best performer by far, strongest, followed by our State of Us announcement, which sort of explained the backstory on the naming of status and what State of Us means. And we shared an amazing infographic with the community. There's links to both blog posts there in the doc, as well as a link to the infographic, which you should definitely check out and explore because there's a lot to it. There's dozens of ways you can contribute to building status for both text and non-text alike. And you can actually download the infographic, share it. There's a link for that as well there. And the last 2 slides cover our site engagement. So this first one, new visitor sessions by source, which looks very healthy, driven by organic email, social, and direct traffic, which is very strong. But on the next slide, it's a bit of a womp womp because you can see that our bounce rate is incredibly high. And this is one case where the higher number is actually not what you want to see. You want to see a lower number. This is basically someone coming to our site and the percentage of people that visit one page briefly and then leave our site. So I think that this is probably attributable to beta downloads, so people going to the site to confirm their email or request access to beta and then leaving, which is obviously not what we want to see. It's completely understandable, I think, during this period of growth for us. But I think what we'd rather see is the community exploring the totality of our site. And this is something that we definitely need to work hard to improve.
Thank you so much, Kim. There's some really exciting stuff in there. And again, huge kudos to Hutch in particular on the Brave New Memes competition. The site might break your computer if you spend too long on it, but I'm told reliably that that's exactly the point. So we move into UX and UXR. I'm really excited about this one because we have one of our new contributors, Obi, presenting the product content strategy.
Thank you, Andy. Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be here. So yeah, I just joined about 3 weeks ago, and I'll be contributing product content strategy. And since content strategy is sort of a phrase that gets used in various ways, I thought I'd just do a quick overview about what that will mean, what I'll be working on. So first and foremost, I'll be working on the UI text. So that's all of the words that you see within the app, from the little guidance messages in onboarding or when you're sending a transaction down to like the words that you see on the buttons, and so you might know this as UX writing. Some people call it micro copy. So that would be one of my main focuses. Another thing I'll be contributing is information architecture. So this is the organization of how the information is presented within the app and the entry and exit points to the app. So this will include things like whether or not we'll include links out to further resources. And this becomes really important in app-like status because, as it's been said before, we're not just onboarding people into our app, we're onboarding people onto the blockchain. So there's a lot of education and support that we need to give users. And finally, style guide is something I'll be working on. And this is something that will be sort of like an editorial guideline that makes sure that the words that we see within the app are consistent across the board. So I'll be using that every time I edit something, and it'll also be something that I can distribute to other contributors and to the community so that, I don't become a bottleneck when somebody needs to contribute a little piece of text. They can also consult with the style guide and see if it goes along with what we've established there. So, we're working on all of these things, obviously, so that users can feel confident within the app and that it establishes a sense of trust. And it's a very collaborative process. So I'm embedded within the UXR team. So, of course, I'll be incorporating the insights that they get from the user testing. I work very closely with designers to make sure that the copy within the app it looks right and it goes along with how we want to be presenting the app. Product managers will give guidance to make sure that the words within the app make sure that they are in line with our business and product goals. I'll definitely be consulting with developers and other tech team members who will make sure that everything that we write within the app is technically accurate. And then of course, collaborating with marketing and branding to make sure that the tone of voice within the app is on message. So, it's obviously a very collaborative effort, and anybody who wants to get my attention can mention or assign me at OB2020 on GitHub. And if you go to the next slide, you see just a really quick example here of sort of the process of editing something in the app. So here we got some feedback that this first screen on the left here was confusing. We got this feedback from a community member, and even internally, it was something that had been flagged. So I rewrote it, and as you can see in the middle, it's like very verbose, lots of text there. And so rewrote it again to sort of bring down the word count and make it something that's a little bit easier to digest. And none of this is final copy, but it's just sort of a quick example of how things, go from one point to the next, and to finally surface in the app. So that's it for me. And again, if anybody, feel free to reach out to me on Slack or on GitHub if you have a question or if you want to assign me some work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Obi. Yeah, it's really great to see this sort of progress in particular, and to see such careful and critical thinking around exactly what kind of language it is that we use to frame what we're doing. As a lot of people on this call know, it's sort of one of my biggest interests in life. And I was having this conversation with Ned the other day about the fact that what we're really doing when we design is entering into a dialogue with the tools that we make that then make us back. Right? So the design is constantly this dialogue with the world and with the tools that we use to interact with that world. And it's especially meta at Status because what we're really doing is we're using this dialogic tool called design to design spaces in which people can have safe and secure dialogues, which is pretty neat, I think. And there's a whole world to be explored in there in terms of how we can best explain to people what is different, unique, and really inspiring about using a product like Status. So with that, we move into our core swarms, and we'll kick off with some beta feedback from Rachel.
Hey, yeah, thanks, Andy. This title of this slide is a little bit out of date now, but yep, so we released beta version 0.9.22 2 weeks ago on the 5th. And in that version, we added support for 3 collectibles to the wallet, a Farsi public chat, a very basic mechanism for spam moderation, and also some new DApps, of course. We also downgraded our version of React Native to reduce battery consumption. Last week, we did not have a release, and the reason for that is that we were low on testers, and the new PR queue was pretty long. So Anna suggested that we skip the release last week, and instead of spending our time testing one, work on all of those new PRs. So we did make good progress against that list, and we're back on track to make a release cut this Wednesday, which will hopefully become available through the usual channels, TestFlight, and the Play Store on Monday. Something to note about that one, we have a PR in to remove Mixpanel. So the goal that we set to get rid of product tracking should be met in this next release. And yeah, from there, we should be back to our usual weekly cadence and continuing to learn from these beta releases as much as we can so we can improve the app for an eventual public launch.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And into the mobile app, which is Igor.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah, as a result, we found out this battery draining issue on the Android. So what we did actually, yeah, we switched to our own React Native fork. We downgraded for the 0922 to the old one, so it gives us more time to actually find and fix the issue. Then Roman actually bisected and fixed the issue, and then we found out that it was actually fixed in the new React Native 0.56.0. So we didn't submit any PRs there. So what we're gonna do in this release is we'll upgrade back to 0.55.4 like we had. We'll apply a patch that Roman did that actually fixed this regression and release that. And then later on, we'll try to also upgrade to the newest React Native to see how it comes. It might take a bit more time because, as always, when we update React Native, we have to be really, really careful and to test it really thoroughly. Yeah, that's it from my side.
Thanks, Igor. And into Infra Tooling, which is Jakub.
Yeah, hey. So the last 2 weeks, we've added an Icinga setup for Canaries for monitoring publicly available services. And that will allow us to monitor not only just the public website, but also internal services that we use like Console and Grafana. And in addition to that, I'm currently setting up monitoring with the help from Pedro of our mail servers, Whisper mail servers, and the future also all Whisper nodes. Just to be always, just to always know whether they are publicable or not. In other news, we've added limits for CPU and memory for our status Go containers in order to avoid losing visibility when they get overloaded and still having all the metrics and logs that we might need for debugging. There's also been a lot of work done on continuous integration for various smaller parts of status, like Get Exporter, which is used for metrics for status D, and also pages like doc status IM and Pluto. All of our fleet has been also upgraded to Ubuntu 18.04 for performance and security reasons, partially due to issues with our internal VPN. In addition to that, we'll also have switched our alert manager for metrics-related alerts into cluster mode for higher availability, and also added OAuth, GitHub-based OAuth. And we also now have a course set up for Discuss Status IM, so we can embed Discuss comment sections into blogs and so on. If we go to another slide, we can see an example of what we have initially set up for Icinga for monitoring our websites. On the next slide. And into that, we'll soon add monitoring of all of our Ethereum nodes that make how the app works possible. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jakub. As always, it's incredible to see the amount of work that you get through in 2 weeks. That's pretty much all, Jakub. And I can say, particularly from a documentation and developer relations perspective, thank you and kudos for the docs.status continuous integration. It's going to make my life in particular a lot easier. So we move on to Discovery mail servers, and this is Adam.
Hello. Yeah, so we are continuing working on that. And the last thing that we achieved in the last 2 weeks is backward compatibility for symmetric encryption of message requests. So right now we are gonna support both symmetric and asymmetric. That's required for for backward compatibility, and in the future we're probably gonna just use symmetric encryption for those requests. And the next one is peer pool for mail servers in status Go. So Adria he merged the pull request that implements that, so it's possible to find mail servers using Discovery version 5. The next step is to integrate all this work into Status React, and yeah, pretty much get rid of the hard-coded mail server addresses. Yeah, and that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Adam. Into chats, and this is either Pedro.
Yeah. So the last couple of weeks, one of the things we did was to run a retrospective of the 99 confidence swarm. Some of the things that came out of it is that we dramatically increased the chat reliability, that we managed to ship on time. Switching to teams allowed for better focus. The main issue we had in that swarm was having visibility into the metrics to drive the effort, and that we needed to find proactive ways to spot regressions. We need more monitoring of mail servers, and as Jakub mentioned, we're already working on that. So although the swarm ended up being aborted for lack of metrics, we we were very happy in the end with the chat reliability. As we mentioned, part of the chat team was in Basel to discuss values and future product decisions. In the meantime, we also managed to implement some cool new functionality like the universal links, message sounds, and a lot of bug fixes. Coming in the next 2 weeks, we're investigating moving the chat protocol from Status React to an SDK written in Go. There will be later today a discussed thread so that we can all look into what this will bring us, in terms of performance, security. So hoping to get everyone's participation on that. And we're also starting to work on implementing the PFS, perfect forward secrecy, by starting with the double ratchet algorithm. And that's it.
Cool. Thank you so much, Pedro. Some really, really exciting stuff there. And we move swiftly into wallets and accounts. The first will be with Barry and ENS usernames.
Yeah, so I guess over the past 2 weeks, there's actually some exciting progress. So thanks to Andre and Julian for the work they've done in terms of being able to expose the status API. So that'll allow the DApp to allow the user to effectively grab and associate their status status key with the username in a very seamless manner. Also, Dennis made a lot of progress in terms of creating a mobile-first UI, and we started to implement that as we now fashion the app into being a mobile-first app. But it still will work with desktops, but we really want to focus on having a great mobile experience, so it could work great inside of the status app itself. And that makes everything look like it's still on track for a mainnet deployment by the end of this quarter.
Amazing. I'm hugely excited about this particular use case. It's really, really going to be fantastic to add people using just their names, not have to worry about long hex addresses. And it really is, a major step forward, I think, for the UX of the whole ecosystem, which is certainly a focus, across a lot of the things that we're attending and are a part of at the moment, including this Ethereum Magicians Workshop going on in Berlin and DappCon and all of these various efforts aimed at making using decentralized technologies not only easy, but pleasurable. So awesome work there. And we move into Trusty 170 with our wallet improvements from Goran.
Hi, everyone. Sorry about the background noise. I'll try to be quick. Basically, all of the progress we made in Wallet is focused either on bug fixing or refactoring, mostly around new command API. So we plan to continue doing that, mostly specifically bug fixing, until there are no bugs left, and we plan to continue refactoring until there are no more opportunities for bugs left. So that's pretty much it. The overall goal is to reach a point where Wallet is our most stable and trustworthy and all of that part of the app. Something we'll be proud of. So that's pretty much it. We continue bug fixing. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, Goran. Yeah, it's like I say, really great to be able to trust my status wallets to the level that I do now, having seen all the work that you've done on it. We move into DApps and developers, and this is Julian and Rachel.
Hey, yeah, I'll present this one. So I'm happy to say that the focus for our team has shifted away from fixes and small improvements for now toward developer tools at last. So highlights for developer work on the status side for contributors, for people who want to build status. We fixed a bunch of issues with dependencies in the setup. And we also added Yarn support so that building status is not only possible, but a bit easier and faster as well. On the DApp developer side, we're nearing completion on the sort of generic status internal hook for extensions, which will provide access to basic things like a user's contact list or Whisper ID for any extension use case in the future. And as Barry mentioned, we'll be our own first user for that because the Whisper ID can really improve username registration a lot. We also began work on oh, sorry, I just mentioned the API will be the thing that will help us with username registration, but it's also going to offer things like wallet address, contacts, kind of anything to do that's like core data for a user. We're also going to be working on a permission flow for that, so we will never give away user data by default. We're always going to let the user control whether they want to share these things with a particular website. We also made a big fix to a UX bug that was a partial blocker to core flows in the status app. That was an issue with the keyboard that was instructing certain input fields. It was really annoying, so I'm glad that we fixed that. And lastly, the doc site. We have a new version up on staging that you can visit at the address on the slide, and we're aiming to publish an MVP to the official URL this week. For the next 2 weeks, we'll focus on having some demos ready of the WebDApp API and status hook. We're, of course, prioritizing security issues that are relevant to our team as well. So things like browser security, third-party dependencies, user data exposure through the Web3 objects in particular, all need to be and will be addressed by our team. And that's it for me.
Perfect. Thank you so much. It's very exciting to see that, in particular, moving away from the small bug fixes, and it's some really, really exciting work that's being done by Julian and Andre in particular. So research, is Jacek around for Nimbus?
Jacek is currently on vacation in Cuba, so I'll provide the update.
Perfect.
All right. The first thing we did this week was to set up our goals for the next quarter. And the goals of the research department in general are a bit wider, but here I'll just focus on the goals of the Nimbus team. In the next 3 months, we will try to deliver a fully working Light client. This would be our main goal. And our secondary goal would be to stay very close to the research of the new sharding design that was presented in Berlin. So we see this as a good opportunity because, as you may know, there is a brand new design how the sharding implementation will work. And since the work is starting now, we see this as a good opportunity to stay very close to the research team. And finally, our last goal would be to start testing our code base, Nimbus, on the hardware platforms that we are going to target in the future. This means all kinds of mobile devices and embedded system-on-a-chip platforms. And as for the progress that we've done in the last 2 weeks, we started doing some research on the sharding already. We identified some components, mainly cryptographic primitives that can be implemented right now. So we've already done some work on implementing some of these primitives. Our work on meeting our previous goal from the previous quarter is still ongoing. We aim to have full compatibility with the existing Ethereum 1.0 ecosystem. And to this end, we continue to improve to pass more and more tests from the Ethereum EVM test suite. And we are currently improving the JSON RPC interface of Nimbus, so it can be used with existing tools that manage the Ethereum clients or test environments that automate certain operations and so on. And another thing that was inspired by the conference in Berlin is that we've enjoyed how the EWASM team of Ethereum has provided some challenge, like for creating a smart contract in multiple languages. And so we took a little bit of time to implement this contract in NIM as well. So we have released a set of tools that can help NIM developers publish smart contracts in WebAssembly that will be used in the future. And our goals continues to be reaching, because most of the components of the virtual machine are already in place, the remaining work is fixing bugs and issues, so we can reach 100% success rate on the EVM test suite. and hopefully be able to sync with the blockchain soon. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Zari. Yeah, EWASM contracts in them is maybe the most such wow, much future thing in this entire presentation. It's really exciting to see those tools in particular come out of the work that's being done by our amazing research team. So that takes us into the desktop with Vitaly.
So during the last 2 weeks, we've been focusing on nailing down the remaining design items and the stability issues, some issues with the underlying RN, React Native desktop port. And we have started to finally merge the desktop branch into develop, which is still in progress. Also, there have been some things like modals support and hyperlink support that have been added to React Native. On the core app side, there have been updates to basically to all of the main views of the app to make them in sync with the designs, like the profile view, the chat list, chat headers, and such stuff. Also, one of the more recent updates is push notification support. This PR is being QA'd right now, which adds like a system level push notifications pop-ups, which is quite cool. And on the design side, Oiga has done work on onboarding designs and the prototype. And for the next 2 weeks, we had a rundown of the most critical stuff, the most pressing stuff that is still remaining. And there are some things that will require a bit more investigations. And these are some app crashes when we are viewing chats with some extended history. And in some cases, the app becomes unresponsive. Well, on press events not firing, this has to be investigated as well. And on the UI side, seems that we have covered most of the stuff that has been originally intended, either covered completely or it's in QA and it's in progress, except for message delivery notifications like delivered and sent, those small labels appearing in chats, and also the global connectivity status notifications that we are still lacking, like so that users know whether they are connected to the blockchain or not. And the last remaining long-standing item that is PR is already in review, but this will still require a bit more work because it's complicated in itself, is the desktop into develop branch merge. The final objective is being able to build both desktop and mobile versions from the same source code, and it presents a particular kind of problems because even the dependencies and the package.json stuff is different. So this will most likely require some kind of preliminary project setup steps, some parameterization or stuff like that. Well, hopefully it will be done quick. So that's the current progress.
Thank you so much, Vitaly. Yeah, it's always exciting to see the progress being made on desktop. And that sort of concludes what we have to say today. Are there any questions from people on this call, or Hutch and Johnny? Are there any questions on the YouTube feed?
Nothing from YouTube, Andy.
Cool. If there are any questions, as always, we have an open channel in our riots, which you can join at chat.status.im. And feel free to reach us either there or on Twitter, one of our various social channels, including our newly launched Spanish social channels, which are already pumping, and we'll be sure to get back to you. Other than that, have a fantastic week, everybody. Thank you for all of the amazing work. It consistently blows my mind to see how much gets done in this organization every 2 weeks. So let's keep it up. Enjoy the summer in Europe if that's where you are, and have a fantastic week. Cheers.
Good job, Andy.
Cool.